This is a lecture on phenomenology for the Philosophy of Research module on the M.Res degree at Sheffield Hallam. In some ways it's a bit strange to give an online lecture on this particular topic. Surely this is one which requires face-to-face interaction in order to be able to gauge how topics such as reciprocity of perspectives and seeing what forms of common knowledge we actually share actually work out in practice. But as it has to be recorded, that is what we will do. Phenomenology is a large field, it's a distinct area in philosophy in itself, and there is a distinct phenomenology in sociology field. In this particular brief lecture, I'm going to explain the line that I'm going to take to identify certain key thinkers in phenomenology, and then to explain why I've taken the sociological approach that in fact I do. I will also explore a little bit into why phenomenology is important before we actually go into the details of it. I'm also going to refer to a certain extent to works of literature, and I'm going to take a few novels from the 2012 Booker Prize shortlist. Now, for those who, and I'm afraid I'm normally one of them, who immediately groan when the Booker comes around each year and see it as just another exercise in the commercial end of literary production, I think 2012 is a little bit different. The panel chair insisted that principles and practices of literary criticism be applied to making the final decision. And it seemed to me that as I read them, the novels themselves that have been shortlisted have a great deal to say to the phenomenologist. And to somebody who isn't a phenomenologist but might be interested in literature, then I think these particular books, or certainly some of them, have quite a lot to offer. I will refer to Hilary Mantel's winning book, Bring Up the Bodies, but the bulk of what I shall take from literature comes from two books on the shortlist. Will Self's Umbrella, which is a stream of consciousness novel, and Alison Moore's The Lighthouse, with its account of a person taking a walk and reminiscing on their past. So that's the direction that we're going to take. So now let's start with an overview of the field. We can start from the fact that both Kant and then Hegel refer to the term phenomenology, but its main usage really comes from the work of Edmund Husserl, who was born in 1858 and died in 1938, and whose work is really from the 1920s and 1930s. It is Husserl who develops the field of phenomenology. And one clear tradition which follows his work, it was from that of one of his students, Martin Heidegger, and Heidegger's development of phenomenology has proved an interesting line, and from that other philosophers and social theorists such as Levinas and Derrida have also contributed. And more recently, we have seen in the work of feminist philosophers, particularly, for instance, in the work of Judith Butler, a concern with some of the issues that Heidegger and others took up. It's not that particular well-known line of phenomenology that I want to follow in this lecture. I want to take up the work of another of Husserl's students, Alfred Schutz. Schutz emigrated to the United States, and it was he who brought together the thinking of Max Weber alongside that of Edmund Husserl, and whose sociology was to take a phenomenological stance by combining the insights of both thinkers. And it was Schutz's work which had a significant impact on sociology, particularly in the 1960s and 1970s in the first place. Schutz himself died towards the end of the 1950s. Now, the work that followed on from Schutz in sociology included that of Thomas Becker and the well-known study Invitation to Sociology, but also particularly the social construction of knowledge. And the other people who I think were particularly influenced by Schutz would include Garfinkel and the creation of the ethnomethodological approach. We see the developments of phenomenology in sociology, particularly in education, criminology, studies of deviance, and to some extent in studies of the mass media in the 60s and 70s. And it's developed considerably in the fields of health, and any review of nursing and health professional literature today will find that phenomenology has been a regular presence over the last 20 years. So for the rest of this particular talk, I'm going to concentrate on the work of Edmund Husserl, and in the next talk I shall move on to the work of Alfred Schutz.